All right. So welcome to the first episode of our VW ID Talk podcast. I'm your host, Wes, and over here.
And I'm your host, Jan. Hello.
So Jan came up with this idea for a different kind of podcast, something that's instead of just doing car reviews or talking about the exciting cars coming out, we're talking about more doing deep dives on things like what we like about driving electric cars. But particularly, Jan and I both drive Volkswagen ID electric cars, and we also are Volkswagen enthusiasts from way back, as you can see from our signs. So some of the things we're going to talk about are mainly mods, things that we can do to retrofit features to our cars that we wish they would have had from the factory, and trying to make it look like they belong there. And we'll have quite a few special guests that I think Jan would like to tell you about here, Jan.
Yeah, absolutely. So absolutely, modifications, tweaks, appearance changes, that's what we would like to cover, but also functional changes. And we are inviting a number of special guests who would, for example, talk in depth about coding or adapting the controllers in our cars.
I think you'll notice the logo for our podcast looks eerily similar to the VW ID Talk forums logo. And that is because our friends at Vertical Scope, who own the forums, have graciously agreed to sponsor us in doing this. And we both feel like we've gotten immeasurable value from the community in the forums. It's very well moderated. There's a very positive, supportive atmosphere. And because of that, we've been able to do a lot of really nice things to our cars where the car looks like it belongs that way. Things that have at least made my daily driving experience happier. So we wanted to say, if you're not a member of the ID Talk forums yet and you drive an ID or want to drive an ID, please go ahead and sign up. It's a pretty good experience over there. You'd agree, I think, Jan?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Please join. We'll be also posting some details about upcoming podcasts. And if you want to influence future podcasts, we'll be also sharing polls that you can answer. Then you can, for example, choose or prioritize topics. Or if you have a topic that on your mind that you want to share, feel free to suggest it in the ID Talk forum.
Great. Well, we're excited to share some of this stuff with you folks. Let's get started.
Yeah, let's get started. This is the very first episode, and it might be great to talk about a couple topics, how we got into the VWs and how we got into ID.4 or ID Electric, what we love about it, and what mods we have done. And then we can chat about some experiences, maybe from my trip to Europe. I was driving the ID.5 GTX and the ID.7.
Yeah, I'm very jealous, by the way. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah,
Right,
kick it off. We can switch. We can alternate.
I could talk about VWs for a long time. So my stepfather, when he first came into our lives, and I was 8 years old, had a Beetle. It was a 70s Beetle. I don't really know what it was because I wasn't really old enough to appreciate. Like, I can't tell you what the engine was, but it was definitely a deep green Beetle. And one of my second car ended up being his old Jetta. It was a Mark II Jetta in the late 90s, and this 92 Jetta. And so I always kind of liked Volkswagen. So when it was time to get my first car, I ended up getting a manual transmission Passat with the 1.8 turbo engine. I loved it, and I've always been kind of passionate about that. And then I ended up somehow with an 81 Rabbit pickup. It was an inline diesel, like 48 horsepower. You accelerated downhill to make up for the deceleration going uphill. And it was a lot of fun. And I've also got a 68 Karmann Ghia. So when it came time to go electric, when it came time to replace my Passat, which is 20 years old, the Volkswagen was obviously something I was going to look at. And I drove a lot. I drove several of the electric cars, and there were other cars that maybe more features or more luxurious, but I didn't feel like anything drove as nicely as the ID.4. I loved the way it handled. I loved how smooth it was, and frankly, I liked the look of it better than others. So I don't know how much of that was influenced by the large Volkswagen badge on the front of it. But for me, it's been a lifelong love affair. My stepfather apologized to me for infecting me with the VW virus, but the VW bug, if you will. Yeah, I'm not disappointed at all. I'm glad he gave it to me. So how about yourself?
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. So our story started similarly in Mark I Golf. My parents drove this car when I was like 5-6 years old, and people say that when my father left for a business trip, my mom secretly ordered the car behind his back. So I don't know if it's true, but that's what people say.
Yeah,
it was a silver. It was diesel, four-cylinder diesel. And then since then, I drove a number of VWs, including 2 Passats, and also because I lived in Europe, I drove 2 Skodas that, of course, were already part of the VW corporation. And then later in the US, I got Jetta. So that's another commonality that we had. This was Mark V. I super loved it. It was the 2.5 5-cylinder engine. I started modding tons on it. I did full LED swap and some pedal shifters and steering wheel from GTI. So that was a lot of fun that I spent the car the time that I spent with the car. So I had really a lot of fun. And then when I was thinking about what's next, I thought I really want something different, something innovative. So I was looking at Golf R, obviously, and then they announced the concept of the ID Cross, which later became the ID.4 and ID.5. And as soon as they announced it, I reserved it. I reserved on day one, and 450 days exactly after the reservation, I got the delivery in December 2021. So then when it started for me.
Well, that's amazing. So, and it's still called the ID Cross in China, right? Don't they call it the Cross?
Yep.
There.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That's interesting. And so your Golf that was your mother's, was that a turbo diesel or a?
No. That was way before the turbos came.
Oh, this is the Mark
was
1.
Just a regular. Yeah, that's the Mark 1. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because I think they did like my 81 Rabbit had a diesel, and they added a turbo later, and it had special oil jet coolers in the oil sump that sprayed oil up onto the underside of the pistons to keep them cool. It's kind of like they had to hack the turbo into the car, but it made a nice difference in the driving experience. I think I forgot to mention that one of the reasons, obviously, I think most people know why we want to go electric is not just the torque and not having to depend on gas, but it's for environmental reasons. And I forgot to mention that for a while we owned a couple of TDI Golfs that were Mark IVs. Which I love. That I think that's still my favorite body style, the A4 Golf. It looks so much more European. The A4 Jettas were great, and after that they looked more like Corollas to me, and I just love the Jetta look. But those diesel engines, this was before the common rail and before the pump-a-deuce engine. It was just the mechanical injector pump, but electronically controlled, and it was able to run B100 biodiesel without any engine modifications. So we have a local co-op with some really smart folks that figured out how to take use vegetable oil, and they actually developed an enzymatic biodiesel process in house. And so I had a local source where I could buy B100 and drive around on waste oil for a while. So when it was time to do something for a new car, it's like, well, diesel obviously has a bad reputation now, and for better or worse, that was Volkswagen's penance was to make these electric cars. And instead of making it a bad thing, I think they turned it into a very positive thing and made some really great cars. So that's the other thing that brought me around to these electric cars.
Makes sense.
I'm
so
happy.
You now have the ID.4, right? Like what color is it?
It's the Arctic blue, which I'm really happy with.
The light blue, Arctic blue, just like the logo. Yeah.
It's really great. And I feel very silly saying this, but I looked at the Q4 e-tron as well, the Audis, and I just didn't like that it didn't come in basically a color similar to that. And in fact, if you go to ID.de, look at the Deutschland website, it comes in Geyser blue, which is pretty close to Arctic blue, and in German that's Geyserblau. But it's very beautiful, and I wish we had it here. But because we couldn't get it, I was like, you know what, I'm going to get this ID.4 in this color, and every time I see it, it makes me happy.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's why you drive it. That's why you got it.
Exactly.
And so, outside of the looks, right? Like they make you happy. What else are you enjoying about your electric car? Is there anything else you'd like to mention?
I mean, the obvious things is not using gas, but and the convenience of always having a full tank when you leave home. But I think the less obvious things are just small touches, like I can sit with my air conditioner on somewhere if I'm waiting on a child at a sports practice, and not really worry that we're spewing fumes into somebody else's passenger cabin. I like that I've got a Frunk. I think one of our episodes we're going to be talking to the fine folks from Frunk.at in Austria, and I really love that. I love the torque. I love being able to accelerate when you need it, but it's not a race car. I don't know. It's hard to say how to separate, because some of it, when you keep a car for a long time and then you move, even if you go 5 or 7 years between cars, the changes they've made are pretty pretty impressive. So going from a 2012 to a 2012 Toyota to a 2024, 2023 Volkswagen, the technology difference is just amazing. So I love all the tech they packed into it. Despite people's complaints of gremlins and stuff, it mostly works really well. So how about yourself?
Yeah, well, I have the red one, and I was just similar like you. I was looking at the Q4 e-tron as well, but they didn't have the King's Red, and so ID.4 it was. Mine is 4-wheel drive as well. Yours is too, right? Yours is 4-wheel drive.
Mine's rear-wheel drive.
Rear-wheel drive.
I'd actually ordered the Pro S Plus in all-wheel drive, and it was just the wait list was longer and longer and longer. And honestly, I think that it was the cosmic interior, that really light interior, that was holding it up for so long, because they had told me they could get me in car sooner in the Pro S Plus trim if I was willing to do a different color. But call me shallow. I was too in love with my color, and I settled for rear-wheel drive. And I like having the extra range.
Yeah, I agree. But it has pros.
And then you might need, but we're in North Carolina here, and so we don't really need snow tires. And all-wheel drive is only for pulling somebody else out of a ditch. So I'm fine with rear-wheel drive, and with some good tires, this car has been really nice. So yeah, totally
agree. So as you mentioned, I love the looks as well. I really like how it drives, and I agree with you that if because the all-wheel drive has the extra kick, extra power, and this is definitely something that I cannot try or cannot do when my family is with me in the car, because they completely hate it. Right, so it's just but when I drive alone, I can go a little crazy, but still, of course, safety first. So I really love how it drives, and I really like how quiet it is, and there's no vibration. It's just smooth, right? It's beautiful, and I actually realized I'm listening to the silence more now. So that could be a little controversial when we talk about mods and our audio mods, because I'm realizing, well, is it something that was worth doing? But anyway.
Yeah.
All right. So these are, yep.
You go ahead.
So these are our cars. Now, do we want to talk about mods of like what we are trying to, what we have done,
Sure.
what type of modifications we have done, what we are planning to do as well, and what we would love to do?
Yeah. Well, so for mine, the very first thing I did before I even bought the car, one of the trends that I've not been happy with in recent years, and this is not a Volkswagen problem, it's an everyone problem, is really putting these huge wheels on cars. It makes these tall cars look smaller by comparison, and it makes them look more sporty to have the large wheels and the small tires. But fuel economy, or in our case, range and efficiency, really suffers with the larger wheels, and the ride quality suffers too, I think. So the first thing I did was a lot of research on how I could get some smaller wheels onto my car, and because what I found out is they had a really nice set of aluminum wheels in Germany that are available in the lower trim models, and they're not available here in the U.S. But I can't remember the name of it at the moment, but it was going to cost so much money to ship them over here that I decided to look for other things. And my concern was not just getting wheels that would physically fit, but because our cars are heavy, not only are they nearly 5,000 pounds, but the gross vehicle weight rating on them is, I think, 6,200 pounds. And so I wanted wheels that I knew would support the weight properly and not just hopefully. And ended up going with some nice aluminum wheels from the Volkswagen Phaeton.
Which was Phaeton. Oh wow, that's premium.
Yeah, well, because the Phaeton had that heavy W12 engine in some of the models, and so they have these wheels called the Challenge wheels, which are 7-spoke wheels. They look really nice. They're actually 8.5-inch wide. So I'm not sure how much I saved on efficiency, because the first thing I did was put some nice Pirelli tires that are not low rolling resistance tires on it. But they're very nice. And I think because of the extra sidewall height on 18-inch wheels, you've got a 235 60 series tire versus I guess you'd have on the 20-inch one, a 235 50. So if 235 60 on 18-inch tires, 235 55 on 19-inch, 235 50 on 20-inch. So that extra few centimeters, you've got more than an inch more of rubber while keeping it the same diameter. And so you got more area riding on it. It handles better. and I kept everything the same as factory. So in the back we had the 255s, and in the front we got the 235s. But I'm not sure how much efficiency I gained, but I definitely feel like I gained some ride quality. So that was the first thing we did, and then the second thing was adding the frunk that I mentioned earlier, which I've been really happy with, carrying extra charger
So it is like a plastic insert into the front, right, or into the engine compartment that normally easily cannot store anything in the ID.4. But
under the bonnet.
So now you can under the bonnet, and now you also have the strut, right, or the hydraulic strut now.
So that's what I was so impressed with is these folks, and we'll talk about them later. But they engineered it so it snaps perfectly onto, I don't know what you call it. I guess it's the front anti-roll bar that's going across that's connecting the strut towers in the front. And it just snaps right on. There's nothing to screw in, and then adding the gas strut for the bonnet so that when you open it up, you don't have to prop it open. It was I like those kind of plug and play things. I'm not artistic enough or talented enough to weld something onto my car, but I can sure snap something in place. And I felt like
if you're interested, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm done. You go ahead.
If you're interested, you can go to frunk.at, frunk.at, to check out the options that they have, because they have frunks for other cars than just ID.4 and ID.5s.
Yeah. Do they make any for gas cars? I don't believe they do.
I don't think so, because it would be melting. I don't know.
It doesn't seem like it.
Yeah, probably not. But yeah.
Well, I was impressed.
All right. So yes, I am impressed too. I agree with you. I did the same mod, and I really love it. So what else are you thinking about, or you have done or planning to?
So I've purchased. I haven't actually installed my audio amplifier yet. I planned everything out and spent so much time. That's part of my problem, is over planning. But being able to do everything all in one time without having to wait for more tools and wait for more parts, and is what I wanted to do. And one of the things I've discovered in the meantime, that I thought the quality of the audio in the ID.4 was abysmal. And I've discovered that it's not as bad as I thought it was. And a lot of what the problem is that the source was really poor. Satellite radio is a really poor source, and regular terrestrial radio. So as soon as we started using Spotify and YouTube Music and things like that, it actually it made a really nice difference in the sound quality. But I'm really excited about what that's going to do.
Interesting.
A few other things. So while I'm doing that, I've got the door panels will be off. I bought the folding mirror kit from Alibaba, and you end up snapping the covers off of the mirrors. In fact, I've got those beside me if you'd like me to show folks what it looks like. But you essentially can snap the covers off and then put my Arctic Blue, in my case, covers on the mirrors. It comes with the cameras, so that if we want to retrofit the 360 camera kit, one of the problems with the 2023 models and some of the 22s, of course, was during the pandemic they had that part shortage, and so they weren't fitting the 360-degree camera kit or surround view, whatever they want to call it, to all the cars. So that's a nice mod that I may or may not do. The mirrors I'm definitely doing. I have those. And I'm going to add some insulation to the doors just for sound deadening.
Yeah. While those doors are off, that's exactly what I've done, because that's the easiest audio improvement that you can do. That's some sound deadening on the inside. I agree. Yeah.
Dynamat on the inside, and then some audio on the outside, and some sound insulation on the outside too. And so doing those things will be nice. And a few little things like storage trays and things like that. But the big thing I'm working on now, which is close to your heart, I've got sitting right beside me here. You can hear that here. I'll make
you have something in the packaging for those who are just listening. So Wes is pulling something from a bubble wrap, and it's a big surprise to all of us, because I have no idea.
So this
here
is the new console for adding rear heated seats that would have come with the Pro S Plus that I originally ordered. And so you can see here that the only real difference is that instead of you having the USB-C up here where the control panel is, they had to move it down here. So our storage bay is a little bit smaller, but essentially the rest of it is unchanged. And this just, snaps right into place. This control panel came with a kit from Alibaba, once again, AliExpress, that included wiring harnesses and seat heating elements and things like that. But this part came directly from the United States dealership.
Okay.
And the control panel snapped right in with no problem. You can see in the back, it there was no problem fitting it in.
Yep.
So adding
Awesome.
the heated seats to the rear doesn't require cutting anything. No
Yeah,
permanent changes
that's
to the
awesome.
car.
That it's just snap in. Yeah, I love it.
So
Yeah, that's exactly what that my family wants me to do, because it is almost required to have some extra
sure.
heating at the back, especially if you go back from a ski trip and everybody's like,
Yeah.
"Can we turn the heat up?" So
Yeah. And that,
that's
and
that's pretty much.
the resistive heating in the seats really cuts down the need for having to have the heater on quite so much.
Exactly.
And since our models in the US don't have heat pumps, and so it really helps with the range.
Yep.
Um,
I agree.
it's nice. It's one of those things I never thought I'd care about a heated steering wheel. And then we got this one. I was like, wow, this is nice. So
Yeah, I really love the setting that you can automatically activate heated steering wheel or heated seats while the outside temperature is low. So it's just an automatic function that sets it up. That's beautiful. So I'm using that too.
Nice. So what kind of mods have you done on yours?
Well, I did a bunch, and I'm thinking I'm crazy because
Well, I think we both are.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why we're doing this podcast.
Exactly. So I wanted to protect the paint, so I started with paint protection film. I just ordered pre-cut sheets. So I have the full hood, front and back bumpers, the front fenders. My daughter helped me wrap the hood, so that was a really interesting project because it's a giant sheet of film. Mudguards. That was
so you
just
did all the PPF yourself now.
Yeah, I did it in the garage. It was like the day one. The car came in. I just polished it or cleaned it and applied the paint protection like before I even drove it outside. So that was the only ride from the dealership. Was the only ride without the PPF. So
wow, I would have been scared to do that myself just for bubbles, and I don't know if my patience is good enough for that. But kudos to you.
The patience was a key in following the best practices, and of course YouTube to learn the best practices. But since the films came pre-cut, it was way easier because it has the right size, so you need to stretch it, and it's easier when it's pre-cut. So for sure.
Okay, well that makes a big difference.
Yeah. So after that, I also played because my car has a black painted roof. I played with blacking out some of the outside trim. That there was a silver trim that started on the A pillar and went all the way to the C pillar. So I blacked it out. It looks amazing. I also blacked out partially the chrome on the wheels. We've posted all the pictures on the VW ID talk. So if you want to see how it was done, feel free to follow there.
And Jan, what was the name of that package? There was a particular package where it had the silver accents and the silver roof rails.
I think it was statement package. Statement package.
And so I honestly agree with you there. I feel like there's a few models where the silver looked really nice, and I feel like there were several others where it didn't. And the red, actually, I thought it looked okay, but I like it better with the just the black accents. So you just used kind of black vinyl paint protection film.
Yeah, 3M paint protection, and I wrapped it. It wasn't hard. It compared to the paint protection film, this the color changing film is way easier to apply because it's thinner and it's very forgiving. So yeah.
Because when I thought I was getting my Pro S Plus with those silver accents, I was thinking I want to change these things. And getting it painted will be expensive. And when I found the threads where it might have been your thread where you did that, and I was like, well, this is a much better option, and it's also not permanent. You can do that nice black vinyl, and it looks really good. I think I remember your pictures looking really nice. So maybe we can share some of those.
We'll
go back and edit this.
Totally. European taillights. That was a hard swap. So
that required a lot of coding. Animation. Yeah, you had to do coding.
It required ton of coding. And so hopefully we'll talk to Andy from Rostec from VCDS, because I use their tool to figure out what I need to code and how to code it. So that the coding was very hard, but also because there was no harness that existed at that time, so I had to build the harness. So that was crazy. But it's fun. I really like these type of challenges.
Well, tell the folks, Jan, that are listening or watching. So you're not an engineer, but you're kind of a wannabe engineer, an almost engineer. You used to play. You played one on TV. You're much more of an engineer than I am. But I think we both have a bit of knowledge about working with electronics. I can't do surface mount soldering like you can, but why don't you tell people, how did you get this experience? Is it just YouTube videos, or I mean, you
Well,
have a technical. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I do have a technical degree. I'm technically an engineer. I studied microelectronics design. So,
Oh, okay.
but I've never worked in that industry.
Okay.
There was like a lot of kind of like soldering when I was a kid.
Okay.
So I did that, and of course I can read the electrical diagrams from
Okay.
the VW Irvin from irvin.vw.com, those official wiring diagrams, and that helped me a bit as well. But there are easier ways to do it. Hopefully, we'll talk also to Nima from Kufatek. We'll have him as a special guest
Oh, great.
because they do retrofit parts as almost like a plug-in component. So they
Right.
can build a harness, and they also have the coding dongle. So that might be an easier way for those who don't want to spend hours and hours
Yeah. So they do the
figuring
hard
this out.
parts for you.
Exactly.
Wait, are they
But
paying us? They should be. I'll look for my check.
yeah, I did document everything on my GitHub. So feel free to search Jennifer Electric and ID.4 on GitHub, and you'll find the post. So yeah, so that's the taillight. The next one that I've done is phone ventilation, because I realized that my phone is heating up quite a bit when the wireless charging is on.
Oh,
So
gotcha.
there were some different ways how to address it. Turn off the wireless charging, use just the cable. But I really wanted to have some extra airflow in the phone compartment, and since I have the 2021, it has a different middle console than the one that you have. I have those like airplane style headrests,
Yeah.
or
Okay.
sorry, the
Armrest. Yeah.
yeah, armrests. Yeah. So
A lot of
it's a
people really like
little
those.
different design.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So I've installed some aftermarket like high quality fan, again documented on GitHub. So this was a little bit more destructive because I had to drill some holes around the phone on the inside. So it's not visible from the interior, but it's just like when you open pop some parts, you'll see
that's the best kind of mod, though, is the kind that looks like it belongs there. You know, somebody gets in your car and you don't want to see something hanging off of the dash vents or something, right? Yeah,
or somewhere. Yeah, exactly.
So it's I love that you can do that. I mean, that's one of my favorite things about your GitHub page, is that you've got how can I do this in an OEM or almost OEM fashion? And the best way is getting OEM parts and doing the coding. The second best way is trying to fabricate something and make it look like it was OEM. But you know, one of the things I'm doing, actually, let me grab this and I'll show everybody.
Yep. So while you're grabbing your next project, the current project that I'm in is seat ventilation, the front seat ventilation. It has been a little bit more challenging than I expected, but again, follow us on the vwidtalk.com, and you can see the progress that we are making. And Wes is showing us another mod.
So this is obviously one that's not been done yet, but I was doing a lot of research on how to properly add these things to the fuse panel. But one of the things I think our vehicle really is lacking is a 12-volt adapter.
Oh, 12-volt socket, yes.
So this is mainly made for boats, this marine grade. But the nice thing is you've got this little ring on the back. And so the motion compensation of my camera is not happy with me right now. But you see, you just got a couple spade connectors on here. Yep. So if you run the proper gauge of wire, you get a hole saw. And as long as you can put it in a place where you're not going to drill into any wires in your vehicle, like the console underneath where the drink holders are in the front, and this goes straight in the hole, right? And then from the back, you know, you just screw in this ring and tighten it up. And the rubber grommet here holds it nicely. You can of course remove that. That's cool. Rubber grommet if you don't want to. But yeah, so that I just want to make sure I'm adding it properly. I've actually documented in the VW ID Talk forums. You saw that how to add a wire to your fuse panel. Yep. It's not easy. It's probably easier to run the wire through your firewall, but maybe not. I don't know. I don't want to do that. I want to be in the fuse panel and look like it belongs there, and hopefully this will look like it belongs there as well. But just one of the many things that we're doing to add some features that I wish had been in the car, but aren't really deal breakers. You know, I mean,
I agree.
For instance, when you're on the road and you've got your laptop and you need to work, and right now I've got I use ThinkPads, and I've got a cigarette lighter charger that I've got plugged in all the way in the back, and it doesn't reach to the front to charge my laptop. It is USB-C, but there's not enough current in the phone USB-C ports to charge your laptop. So that's one reason. You know, if you're on a really long trip and you're somebody prone to blood clots, maybe you have some of those pressure cuffs for your calves or something. You know, ask me how I know. But you know, there's all kinds of there are all kinds of reasons people might need a 12-volt power adapter.
Yep.
And usually not for cigarettes nowadays. So
yeah, I agree.
There's
one feature. Yeah, there's one feature that I really enjoyed because I'm in Europe now, and I had a chance to rent the ID.5 GTX. And there was one feature that I really, really, really liked, which is the 360 camera. It really helps navigating in tight spaces, backing in and out, and I really like it. So as a retrofit, I think it's probably hard because all the interior trim needs to go down to route all the cabling, but that feature is really awesome.
So I think this is different for the 2021 and 2022 models than for the 23. I believe that my 23 has the wiring in the doors already. And so the most difficult part is running the wiring to the front camera, because the rear camera, like you said, the intelligence, the smarts are all in the camera itself. So you would add the control module under the rear seat and then plug in the new rear camera. And if you have a 2023, the wiring in the doors should already be there. Don't quote me on that. If you go to do this on your car, if anybody tries to do this and you get in there and it's not there, it's not our fault.
Yeah, let us know.
Please do let us know. But I think running the wiring through the under the bonnet through the motor compartment is going to be tough, and then probably even tougher is getting the right coding adaptations done to make it function as if it functioned from the factory. And once again, Kufatech has a solution. Doesn't Kufatech have a solution for this as well?
They do.
Right?
They do have a solution. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. But of course, you know me. As I was driving the GTX, I did download all the adaptation maps, so I already had the coding. So well, it's just
I didn't know that, but I'm not surprised.
So we know how a functioning car should be configured, especially that 360 module. So that's I'm looking forward to it.
So for people that are willing to do, I'm sorry, for people that are interested in doing things like this, this is something you might not know the answer to, but if you make these kind of adaptations, and then you take your vehicle into the dealership and they're pulling something down, from Otis using the factory stuff, they're not going to have documented that you have these features. The updates, do we know if software updates override that coding and you have to go make
that? Is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. Yes. So OTAs reset the coding to the original coding as the car came from the factory. So for example, in my case, if I have the European taillights and if it goes through the over-the-air update that updates the two specific modules that were changed with coding, then that coding gets reset. And so before I can drive the car again, so that the rear lights work again, I need to restore the previous coding.
But now that you've documented all of that, you can do that fairly quickly, right?
Yeah, it's fairly easy, but still, it's a hassle, right? It's an additional step. That
now, what about if you've done something like we had talked about our convenience modules for doing ventilated seats and things like that? If you ended up with a convenience module from a newer car that has a newer firmware, is there a danger that the factory OTAs would downgrade that firmware? Do we know the answer to that?
It's really hard to say, and hopefully we'll have somebody from VW to talk to us about the software, the ID software, and updates. I don't envy them. It's a monumental task.
Of course.
When you think about the number of modules and number of control, slaves and sensors that are connected to them, it is way more complex than it may look like.
I mean, I certainly don't blame VW for setting it up that way. They've got a nice database to make sure that they know what's in your car and they're updating what they think is supposed to be there. So I don't blame them. I blame Bosch.
Well, I blame myself. So
no, not really. We're the ones tinkering.
So going back on the GTX, I really love the design of the GTX. There are a few more panels that were painted in the color, of course, black roof. The rear of the vehicle on the ID.5 is different. We know it. It's a sloping down, and there is a spoiler
back, or is it called a sport back?
Sport back.
Fast?
Yeah,
it's too tall, I guess, to be a fast back, but it's okay. But this was,
and what is interesting.
The ID.4 doesn't come with the GT. Oh, the GTX is only an ID.5. Is that correct?
No, they have both in GTX.
Oh, they do.
Here.
Okay.
Yeah. But the ID.5 we don't have in the US. We have only the ID.4 in the US.
And that was the nice thing about the Q4 e-tron. With the Audi, you could get the regular Q4, or you could get the Sportback. And in fact, that's the same with the Q8 as well. You can get the e-tron Sportback or the e-tron regular. So I'm very happy with my ID.4, but I do like the look of the Sportback. So I'm jealous.
Yeah, I think I'm happy with my ID.4. But I was quite surprised that this GTX was not fully loaded, meaning there was no premium audio, no head-up display, and not even DCC, so the dynamic chassis control. So, but it really looked nice. What was really surprising and I would say very convenient was how the IQ drive, as they call it, and especially the automatic speed recognition, is coded here in Europe. It actually reads the speed limit and adjusts your speed to that speed limit. And it also knows from the map that, hey, there is like 30 feet or 100 feet from here, 30 meters, 100 feet from here, behind this curve, there is a 50 kilometers per hour speed limit. And it sets the 50, it says, hey, 50 kilometers per hour speed limit is coming, setting the speed. So you're actually ready when you come through when you go through the sign and you're on that speed limit. I kind of loved it because it can be quite tricky to follow the speed limit in Europe. And maybe people may think it's crazy to say something like that, but I found that it's the density of speed limits on the road. It's crazy. Yeah. Like on 100 meters in 300 feet, you have 3 different speed limits. It's just nuts. So, hey, the car does it for me. I love it. So I enjoyed it. Of course, you can turn it off, but that was something that I enjoyed.
Yeah. Well, I think mine does that with the IQ Drive here, or I guess just driver. What do they call the assist package? Not adaptive cruise control, travel assist.
Travel assist. Okay.
If you have cruise control set, if the speed limit is 65 and you got it set at 69 or 71, when it knows the speed goes down to 55, it will slow down.
It will. Okay. So, yeah, so mine is not coded that way. So.
Yeah, I don't think so. Maybe confusing. So we have a different car as well that's electric, and it maybe I'm confusing. I'll do that again next time and make sure I'm not lying to our to our listener. Yeah. Yeah,
and two more things I want to add from Europe. So I had a chance to see ID.7 and the ID.7 Tour, and it really feels like a higher class of the vehicle. It's more spacious, it's more premium, and even my daughter is like, oh, there's way more space. It drove as ID.4 or other car. The one that I drove, that I test drove, it had the rear wheel drive only, but it's the new motor. It's the APP 550, and
nice.
with the higher torque. And it's funny, it kind of felt like the GTX, right? So it's almost has the kick and the GTX power in the rear wheel drive only. So that was really interesting.
So you felt like it had a lot more power than it has almost as much power as the all-wheel drive.
Exactly.
In the US,
exactly.
Right? But so that is Volkswagen's plan, though, with the ID.7 in the US market as well, and in all of North America, is for the ID.7 to be a more upscale. I thought that was the
yeah.
That's kind of the electric Arteon almost, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
So just to jump back just a second, though, with the ID.5 GTX, I know this may be only relevant to Europe, but you said it didn't come fully loaded, but you could order those options if you want, right?
You can. You definitely can.
Okay. Yeah, it just didn't come by default.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, that's great clarification. And then one more thing, which is really great in Europe, is that all electric cars and Teslas and not Teslas have the same connector now. So you can DC charge on a Tesla charger.
Yeah. Everything uses CCS2, right?
Yes, CCS2. Yes.
Even Tesla. Okay.
Even Tesla, yes.
Yeah,
yes. So the NEC, the North American standard connector isn't here. The Teslas here come with the CCS2. The only challenge that I figured, so I tried 2 different chargers, 2 different Tesla superchargers. One was Gen 2, and the cables were too short.
Right.
To reach, and so I couldn't use that. I tried a different one where the cables were a little longer, but still, the charge port on the ID vehicles is on the passenger side, but on the Teslas is on the driver's side. And so if I back into the slot, I need to block one slot and use the other charger from the other slot, right? So that's not right, of course.
And that's been discussed a lot online. Yep. But have you found that you could back in? At a lot of these charging stations, you're able to back in from the opposite side, like from not the opposite.
No,
space,
unfortunately, they were Yeah, if you would be able to back in from the opposite side, that would be perfect. But this was in
Yeah,
the city, literally, like there was a sidewalk on the other side or trees
right.
in the other example, so that was not possible,
Yeah, and a lot of
unfortunately.
people complain about Volkswagen's placement, but other manufacturers have done the same. I believe Hyundai and Kia have it at the same location, right? Don't they have it in the passenger rear side? I
I'm
was
not
reading
sure.
a review the
We
other day
got to
of
check.
somebody else. The idea, I think, is that if you are in a city and you have street side parking built into street lamps and things, you can pull up to the curb and plug straight in. But it
Yep.
always comes from Volkswagen's, Autobahn history, where you pull into the petrol station and fill in on the passenger side and then get back on the road without having to.
Yep.
So I understand why they do it, but yeah, I mean, in practice, I back in all the time at home because of where we put our charger. My wife has a Mustang Mach-E, and hers is on the driver's side front,
Mm.
which is
Oh, front. Oh,
functionally
that's right. That's right.
it's functionally the
Yep.
same as the passenger side rear, right? Just she pulls in front and I pull in backwards, and they're both in the same spot. But of course, Tesla being opposite, and I think a lot of it remains to be seen how opening up access to the supercharger network here in the United States is going to work with etiquette when you literally have to park in the wrong parking space. You don't want to block someone else.
Exactly.
There's something that people that own EVs have been thinking about for a while, and people that don't are like, wait, what? There's not a standard. So yeah.
Mm.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to ask what you think of the ID.7 Tourer, because I know a lot of uh, a lot of North American, mainly car nerds, it seems like, are very jealous that
Hmm.
we don't get the. And to be clear, when we say Tourer, we mean wagon. Really, we mean sport
Like I
wagon,
see. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
not your
yeah, yeah.
father's Cutlass wood paneled wagon, but like nice, basically like a crossover, but smaller and faster and longer and sportier and cooler. So were you jealous when you saw it? Do you wish we could get the Tourer over here
I
in the United?
was. Yeah, I was. I definitely was jealous. The interior is really nice and upscale. The one feature that I really like is, and I thought I would not like it, but it's the Tesla-like adjusting the blower direction, the vent direction. So
Yeah,
in the AC, there are sliders where you can slide how those blowers, or where those blowers blow through the four vents in the front. And there are also shortcuts that you can say, oh, I want it on my face, or I don't want it on my face, and it automatically adjusts. And it is very convenient, actually. So
excellent.
I like that quite a bit. So what was really felt strange is on the ID.7, when I test drove it, it had the head-up display, but also a smaller display in the front of the steering wheel, and it felt like those two, the information on the head-up and on the display, is
Identical,
somewhat
yeah,
duplicate, right? So yeah,
yeah.
but I guess it's just getting used to it.
Yeah, but the head up is there so that when the wings come out, when and you take off, you're able to not have to look down.
Exactly. I
When
love
you,
the head up. Like that, there's no discussion about it.
yeah,
That's really, really good to have the
yeah,
head up display, especially here in Europe
yeah,
with the speed limits on
yeah.
every corner, as we talked about it.
But they can
So
also
for sure.
fly, right? When you hit the flight button and the wings come out and you can take up. They don't. The
Exactly.
European
Yeah,
models
yeah,
don't.
yeah.
Okay,
And
good,
they do hover as well. So
good, amazing, amazing. The Europeans get everything nice. I swear. Um, Dad joke. I'm sorry. Well, um, we're the Buzz is now orderable, configurable. You can't order it yet.
yep,
In fact, we're
yep.
not going to do pre-orders, but you can go on and run the configurator. And my 13-year-old daughter has decided she wants one. So maybe by the time she's 16, there'll be enough used ones that we can afford. But I don't know if she knows yet that she's not getting a new car. Uh, but but I'm proud of her for wanting an electric and a Buzz as well. But it's boy, they've really done a lot of nice work with that. The electrochromatic panoramic roof and the
Yep. Yep.
the the contrasting trim colors and just I mean, it's funny they don't want to call it a minivan. It's a minivan, but it's a really cool minivan.
It's a
Um,
bus. It's
yeah,
called bus, so it's a
they
bus.
call it the Buzz, but they generated a lot of buzz around it, right? That's what they're going for, and
Yep.
I think people
Yep.
are excited. We'll see, I guess, how much excitement, how many vans does the excitement sell? How many buses uh,
You know,
can the
I'm
Buzz sell?
I'm sure there will be a lot of interest, and I spoke with a couple of friends. They're already like ready to order. So
Yeah,
maybe we'll get some of these owners on the podcast to
yeah.
talk to us
Well,
about their experiences as well.
that would be great. They look great, and they should be delivered in the next few months. They said by the end of the year, right? So,
That's what it looks. Yes, yes.
and
End
as
of the
far
year
as
2024. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
and as far as we know, they're all available in Pro S or Pro S Plus. There's no lower trims, and they should all have the APP 550 motor, right? As far as we
They
know.
have the 550 and the longer wheelbase in the United States. So yes,
Okay.
And with
I know
the four-wheel drive option as well.
People were disappointed with the range because as a family vehicle, they're going to be used for road trips a lot. But honestly, we just took our ID.4 from North Carolina down to Cape Canaveral and back, and really didn't have any trouble with the trip. And by the time you need to stop and charge, you're ready to stop, particularly with the family. All right. Well, that's all the time we have for today's episode. Thank you folks so much for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you're not already a member of the VW ID Talk forums, go ahead and join there. It's a wealth of information. And again, it's very supportive. Yeah. So Jan, what are we going to be doing on our next episode?
Chris from Battery Life is joining this podcast as a special guest, and he will tell us all about his experiences with ID.3 and now ID.7. But he reviewed all the ID cars, all the permutations and versions of ID cars. He also drove an ID.3 with software version 1. So make sure you subscribe and stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Bye.
Thank you.